I put a spotlight on the back of this Chevy Impala, but the actual scene I was looking at was fairly evenly lit. That's what I want to talk about, how to create a spotlight effect in a painting. Now, this is something that I do sometimes when I'm on location, painting from observation. Before I can think about light, I have to draw the car in, and then I use watercolor, anthraquinone blue, Naples yellow, terra rosa, and white gouache. So it's a limited palette, but it's got everything it needs, red, yellow, and blue. And you'll notice that as I paint in the shadow under the car and the shadow side of the car, that I'm using kind of a spotlight underpainting. That underpainting, which I did in the studio before coming here, is done in casein. And let me take you to the studio so you can kind of see how I do that spotlight underpainting in casein. Casein is a water-based paint with a matte that dries to a matte surface, a little bit like gouache, but you can use it for underpainting because when it dries, it won't pick up even if you re-wet it. You can also use acrylic gouache for this, which is basically a matte acrylic, or you can use tinted gesso. But I have two big brushes, and I'm very lightly scrubbing the paint on the surface of this watercolor paper. I don't want a whole lot of paint on the underpainting, but I want to have enough on there that I can create this arbitrary spotlight. Now, I didn't know what I was going to be painting when I put down this underpainting. I just did this as an arbitrary shape. And the nice thing about having this underpainting is it influences the color choices later. So as I look at this scene, I think I want to paint the back half light. Okay, so let's just think for a minute about what we mean by this idea of spotlighting something. I'm going to put a bottle cap here and take this white cube and set it on a piece of paper that's a slight off-white. And if we turn it, we can maybe get the same relative angle that we had with that Chevy Impala. Now, what if we were to take this scene, which is right now fairly evenly lit. The whole scene is lit by the sun. And I've got this piece of cardboard with a cutout. And if I hold that over the front, I can spotlight just part of that cube. And if I move it up here, maybe we can just get this part of it. And that way, suddenly, the whole thing becomes more dramatic. And it feels more theatrical. Now you see the edge of this cast shadow is sharp because this cutout is fairly close. If it was up higher, maybe 10, 20 feet, it would be a softer edge. And if it was much higher, it would be a very soft edge. A cloud shadow has such a soft edge you can't see it except over maybe a city block. But by having a intermediate cast edge shadow from a small aperture high up, it looks very strange and almost impossible in the real world. But you can do anything you want in your painting. And you can look at a scene that's fully evenly lit, like this cube, and just choose which part of the scene you want to spotlight. So far, the underpainting colors have influenced very much the colors I've put on there because I've been using transparent watercolor. But now I'm going to start using some of that gouache. Mix a little yellow into the white. It's still roughly the same yellow as the underpainting, but I can lighten that up and make it closer to white and sharpen that edge of the back of the window. Okay, I want to use my white cube here to make one more really important point about outdoor light when you're painting outside on a sunny day. If there's clouds in the sky, there's a big change in the lighting when the cloud passes in front of the sky. As long as it's sunny, you can get an effect like this where the light side here and here is much lighter than the shadow side. And the shadow side, both the cast shadow and the form shadow, are fairly close in value with a very hard edge around the cast shadow. Now, I'm going to simulate the effect of a cloudy sky by using this white silk or nylon diffuser. And if I hold this up here, I can simulate the effect you'd get with a cloudy sky. Let's see if I hold it over here. There we go. And now there's still a shadow around this edge here because the light is somewhat directional from that diffuser, but it has a very soft edge, as shadows do when you have a soft light source as opposed to a hard or small point source of light like the sun. There is some dark underneath the form, just like there's dark underneath the car. In computer graphics, that's often called ambient occlusion. Whenever two forms are close to each other, they tend to block access to the light, so you get a shadow underneath the form. But now, the lightest value is the top surface, and the vertical sides are all a bit darker than that top surface. So here again is the sun shining from a blue sky, and then sun through a cloud. So now back to the painting. I'm focusing more now on the nitty-gritty details of this 1962 four-door hardtop Chevy Impala. I love the cars from this era. The chrome cursive lettering and all the trim and medallions that they lavished on these cars. I won't be able to paint all those details really because the light is so bright bouncing off the back surface of the car that it burns out some of those details. But after about an hour and a half, I have the basic feeling that I wanted to get. Just a spotlight on the back half of the car and the rest going into kind of a twilight shadow. It's a weird light effect, but it creates a strange, unearthly feeling in an otherwise straight plein air painting. Okay, thanks for watching. You might want to check out my website or subscribe to my channel. And then here's a playlist with more good stuff and a video that continues the story. So check them out and share with your friends.